I speak for a lot of people when I say we're very happy to have you back. We love covering you, and I know a lot of people love rooting for your team, but it's been a crazy couple of weeks, and we've heard how it felt, but I have some specific questions about how it all kind of went down and what went on through your mind. As you reflect back a couple days later, I mean, how do you look at the situation and say, hey, I turned down what could have been a great opportunity?
Well, I think that was the hardest part of the whole thing, you know. I mean, I've had other opportunities that never went this far, of course, but they, in my mind, were nowhere near where this opportunity was. I mean, to me, this was by far the greatest opportunity other than being here that I've had, and in a lot of ways, you know, when you look at the kind of team they have and how well they've done, the financial things that go with that, the facilities down there. I mean, I could go on and on. I'd be a good recruiter for Dan Gilbert, but there just were a million things, you know. I did love the owner. He was great, the people there. So, you know, it's, I don't know, it's one of those things you just have to sit down with yourself and come up with the best reasons why to stay or why to go.
Clearly the number one question for us was, what do you think? Is he going to stay or is he going to go? And the one thing that kept tugging at me when I thought you may go was X's and O's wise. It seems to me it would be a great challenge to you to insert a more complex offense. If there's ever a challenge for you here is that you're dealing with kids who, for better or worse, are a little immature and maybe can't handle that complex offense. Is that an appeal to coach the best, to be able to insert a complex offense, to really challenge yourself from a basketball perspective?
Well, I don't know as much about the complex offense, but to challenge yourself, you know, everybody wants to be at the top of their profession, you and me and everybody else, you know. I mean, that is a goal of everyone. When you start out in anyone as a graduate assistant at Michigan State, what do you want to get to? You want to get to the top. I'm sure when you started out in TV, it was the same thing. And because of that, yeah, I think there's a competitiveness, there's a burning desire, there's a unknown, there's a, man, what would it be like? You know, it's the top of your profession, and you can say, well, so is college, but I mean, as the progress goes, everybody wants to get there. Players do, and I think a lot of coaches do, and yet it was a tough decision. I can only tell you that it wasn't as cut and dry as everybody thought.
You know, on the flip side, people say, well, what will keep him at college? And I would answer, and you can respond, it seems he's so close to getting that program to where he wants it to be, where it is really each and every day uttered in the same sentence as Kentucky, North Carolina, Duke, and that might draw you back. It seems that won out. Is that fair to say?
It is fair to say, and it is, but I equate it kind of like being a golfer, though. You know, a bogey golfer is pretty good, you know, and a par golfer, you're a pro. It's only one stroke, you know, you're so close, but that so close is a long ways away. I think what I looked at college is I love it here. They've treated me so well here. We have gotten this close. There are getting to be, as I told our players, distractions are a problem for anybody. Players, coaches, this, that. You know, there's getting to be more distractions in college ball, too. You know, the NCAA rules and the academic standards and the recruiting. And, you know, I mean, wear a lot of hats in college. Sometimes I wonder, am I a basketball coach, or, you know, well, what am I anymore when you wake up?
Did that weigh on your mind that you may want to leave some of that behind so you could focus just on hoops?
Oh, I think, yeah, I do. I think that definitely weighed on my mind, because it's getting crazier on this end, too. And everybody says, well, do you want to deal with the problems of the NBA? And some of them I do, and some of them I don't. But do you want to deal with the problems of college basketball or football right now? There's a lot of good things, but there's issues, and yet I'm president of our association. Maybe I can help make a difference.
What about your fiery manner, your really emotional manner? Did you feel that might be a hindrance dealing with NBA players? Did that enter into it at all?
I did in every job that even people talk to me about, except this one, and it's probably what made it the hardest. Dan Gilbert, to me, has the same personality in business. And he made it clear to me right off the bat that that's what he was looking for, where everybody else was talking about how you can't do this and can't do this and can't do this. And that's what Magic Johnson and Steve Smith and Scott Skiles You know, all my guys, Mateen and Morris, they've all talked about the good teams in the NBA. When Chuck Daly was with the Pistons, or the way Joe Dumars does it there. There's some accountability. There's some credibility. There's some discipline. There's some tough love. You know, you look at the Lakers when Pat Riley was there, and Irvin tells those stories. You look at San Antonio. If you look at, there's only 4 or 5 of them now. I think Doc Rivers is one of the best in the business. And you listen to those timeouts. I mean, he's not afraid to get after somebody. So that part played. In fact, that was the part that won me over with Dan Gilbert in Cleveland. Is instead of saying, you know, you got to do this different. I mean, I'm not crazy. You might go about it a different way on how you get through to somebody, but at the end of the day, you better be getting through to them. And I think if you're in corporate America, athletics, or anything else, that's all the same. So was that a negative? No, that was a major positive with Dan Gilbert and Tom Izzo.
Everybody said, though, this job isn't this job if LeBron isn't on that team. So if the offer comes in July 5th and he's already said he's coming back to Cleveland, doesn't that change the whole ballgame?
Well, it changes a lot of it. I mean, I don't think there's any question that LeBron James, you know, it was a strange situation that there was going to be a new general manager, a new coach, and your best player, or one of the best players in the world, is in a free agent market. So those unknowns made it a little less comfortable. But again, what some of my guys said that are in the league, and Skyle Smith and Johnson were 3 that stated this emphatically, is, you know, if you got a good owner, everything will work out. You know, I thought had a good owner, and the LeBron situation. By the end of it, you know, who knows? Nobody knows. But I think he's got a good chance to go back there. But timing, as you say, is everything, and it just wasn't the right timing.
I know you're close with Flip Saunders, too, and you've been very front row to everything he's been through. Really good pro coach, taking teams to the precipice of winning a championship, and yet he's on his 3rd professional team. Do you worry about that, you know, revolving door atmosphere that sometimes rears its ugly head in the NBA? I
do. But again, remember now, I'm talking about and Flip was a guy that I didn't mention earlier, but was very, very good in talking to Flip. You know, we're getting a little bit of that in college ball now. You're seeing coaches getting fired during the year, even football coaches getting fired during the year. You're seeing whatever trickles down from the NFL and the NBA, it's coming faster. And so, you know, if you're not successful, you're not going to keep your job. That's part of the deal. And that did not worry me. I think it was more, you know, looking at not wearing as many hats because I want to be a basketball coach. And yet I think staying here, you hit the nail on the head, you know. Are we this close? Can we get to another national championship? Can we do some things that would put us in that group that I constantly say we're not there yet, and people constantly tell me we are. But I think even you know, you're right. You know, there's a few things that haven't been solidified yet that would maybe bridge that gap forever.
You were aware of the circus, obviously. But were you also aware of the grassroots efforts of the people around here, the We Love Izzo signs, the fact that they clearly want you here forever?
Well, that was heartwarming, and it was embarrassing, and it was great, and it was a circus. 3-ring, 4-ring, 6-ring, that I didn't enjoy, and yet, you know, I guess I was the fault of that, and I didn't enjoy that I made some of our fans uncomfortable. I appreciated that our administration, the president and the AD, understood that, you know, there's been a lot of situations where my name gets thrown up, just like anybody who's having success, but not very often did I look into many jobs, and there's only been a couple since I've been here, and by them letting me pursue it, even though it damaged a few things, I think I feel better now that at least I was able to make an educated decision, and I have no regrets.
Tuesday wasn't the proper forum. This probably isn't either. But I'm dying to know, what would you change about how how a story like this is covered, because it's 24/7. People want the news. There's a demand for what's the latest on such a hot story like this. I mean, it weighed on you. It weighed on us at the same time. I don't love it. I don't love the fact that you're always wondering, like, what did this source say, or what did that source say, and what did this blog report, and should we even legitimize that? I mean, what do we do?
Well, I think you just hit on you know, I don't like that my job is starting to become where you're wearing too many hats that you have no control of. You guys got a couple hats that you have zero control of. I mean, no insult, but some college guy comes home 2 o'clock in the morning and jumps on the chat page and puts something up there, and you're calling me about it, legitimizing it. I don't know how you do it. I just know this. Media has changed too. And I've always had great respect for the media. I work for a guy that said everybody has a boss. I'm learning that sometimes those bosses, you know, I don't like when people live in you know, it's like ivory towers and never come down. I think that's one of our problems with the NCAA. They're never down where the dirt is, you know. And I think sometimes editors and that are the same way. I don't think they're ever out there. I mean, we were being asked to legitimize 5 different press conferences. That never was it mentioned. And somebody was throwing them up against the wall. So I do feel bad because you wouldn't do that with your station. A lot of those good newspapers wouldn't do that, but they were being forced to do things, as you say, and yet it was my life being played out there. And I had no problem dealing with the truths, but I had a lot of problem dealing with so many false statements, and I don't know. That's going to be in the next 2 months. I'm going to talk to a lot of my friends in the media. I'm going to talk to other coaches, but I think the greatest thing that happened was what would happen as far as for an athletic director, for a SID here at Michigan State, for media people in our state, because I had a lot of media people, even though a couple, it got a little brutal, I had a lot of them that said, I can't stand this either, almost what you're saying. How do we do it? But it's not your family that's getting called. I got a 10-year-old son, they're calling his school. I got 85-year-old parents that they're calling them at their house in Appleton. And, you know, I'm not telling them half the stuff because parents are 85. You don't want them going through the stress. I thought that was, I don't want to use the word I was going to, but I thought that was downright ridiculous.
Does it hurt you a little bit, too, when you consider how open you've been? I mean, all access, almost all the time. There's been no coach in the United States who's been as open as you have been. And now all of a sudden you're feeling it.
I'm glad you said that, because I think that is what I've been, all access all the time until this year when some things happen and your people, I mean, when I say state of Michigan media, kind of advised me not to be as open, because that gets you in trouble too. But I always have been, and so I went the other way. I didn't want to upset one editor. I didn't want to upset one boss and say this guy got it and I didn't get it. He's working, he's not. I can say this. If I can say one thing positive about the media, and I mean this, there wasn't a TV, a radio, a newspaper, or any other form of media that didn't do their job in covering this. I mean, they were working 24/7. They were calling, texting 24/7. So for all those editors that are put fear in the fear of God in their workers, you shouldn't be, because your people did the job. It's just that you know, it's making me wonder now which way to go. But we'll figure that out. And I'm going to there'll never be a closed locker room at Michigan State. There'll never be a player that I don't let speak to the media. I'll do my job as best I can. I believe in the open door policy. I just got to figure out how to corral it a little bit so it's good for you and good for me.
Couple more. You've made your decision. It has to be a huge weight off your shoulders. You talked about the goals changing. As you've had a couple days to sit on this, have those crystallized? Where's the bar now?
The bar's got to be raised still, you know, as what you said earlier, you know. When will Michigan State, in a recruit's mind, in a whether media members or just people out on the street, you know, where our name is in there with those 5. And And I think that is, I think I'm a lot closer. As some of my friends in the media say, oh, you're there. And I know when I'm there because I know what it's like to recruit, or I know what it's like in certain situations. And I don't think we're there yet, and that's okay. I mean, some of that is earned over time. You know, you look at Penn State football, Michigan football, Florida State, you know, Kentucky and Kansas in basketball. I mean, you're talking 60, 70, 100 years. You know, I'm not going to be around that long. I just hope to build the basement and the foundation so that it's good enough to withstand the next guy that comes in 10 years from now.
So you're 55. Who knows how much longer you're going to do this? The recruiting game changes every year. If you could flip a magic switch immediately, what would you change about how recruiting's done?
Well, oh boy, I'm in that position on that board. I just think I think we're putting too much pressure on the kids. I think we're doing the same thing in college to get them to the NBA. You know, everything's got to be rushed. Let's have a superstar at 12. Let's have you know, the next LeBron or Kobe at 18. When that's the exception, not the norm. And I think that we're giving false expectations to kids, and then they struggle to meet those. You know, they're not sometimes their expectation, they're ours. And that's so unfair. And, you know, you need access early. You know, if I had to pick one thing I would like is to straighten out the college, you know, problems of getting more access. If we're going to be responsible for everything a kid does right or wrong, you got to have more than 20 hours a week for during the season. You have nothing you can do in the summer, and yet if people do something wrong or players get in trouble, it's the coach's fault. That's another collegiate thing that you don't deal with in the NBA and or NFL. So, you know, every place, as Judd Heathcote says, make more money, got more problems. And every place got its problems. But trying to get those win-win situations, which I think benefit both parties, is now what my new fight will be in college.
I have a specific one about your team. A lot of fans want to know, what can you tell us about Chris Allen? Conspicuous that he wasn't there Tuesday. I don't know if that was coincidence or not, but I don't know what you might be able to tell us about him.
Well, he was actually there. He wasn't up on the stage, but he was there. But nothing has changed with Chris. You know, we're evaluating and he's evaluating. There's been some things that we don't think are the way we want him here, you know, and whether it be his commitment or my commitment. And so we're letting time. I'm doing something that I'm learning to do. I'm not trying to make rash decisions. I'm see how he does in school, see what his commitment is to us, and I think what he did is you know, take a look at is this the place he wants to be? I think everybody has to go through that now and then, and so the Chris Allen saga, if they want to call it that, is not changed, and it's there's nothing being held back by either side. It's just it's a work in progress, and that's the way I'm going to leave it.
Last one. When all was said and done, it was you and Lupe and the two kids, and you're talking about it, and it came down to, I guess Raquel was pretty dead set on wanting to stay here. How much did that weigh heavily on you?
Well, as it would with anybody's kids, it weighs, but it can't be your, I mean, if I did everything according to what my kids wanted, I'd be back in Iron Mountain probably hunting and fishing, you know. So that, it played a fact because it hit home to me. It brought a realism that, you know, kids understand what's going on too, as we always say about players. But, you know, Lupe and I made the decision, and we made it with some help of a couple of close friends that I have and some information that I gathered. But if there's one regret I have, and only one, it's I really enjoyed my relationship with Dan Gilbert and the people in his organization. Mm-hmm. He was understanding. He was pressing from a standpoint of a good businessman and a recruiter. I don't have one negative thing to say about that, which means I missed that, you know, and hopefully I'm going to stay good friends with him because I think he's going to do a heck of a job with that organization, and they're going to win, and it's going to be a lot because of the owners. So when it was all said and done, Michigan State is me. I've been here 27 years. Proud of it. I appreciate the people that have helped me. The state of Michigan has been good to me, and you know, I've idolized some guys, and it's almost illegal to idolize a guy from U of M, but I idolized Bo Schembechler. I really did. I idolized what he did and what he stood for and how he did it. And I was around when he turned down a couple of jobs, and so, you know, I looked at all the people around the country that stayed in the same place and built something special. And there's not that many of them because we get fired in our profession too. But trying to be one of those and finish it out was decided to be the ultimate goal for Tom Izzo.
Cool, perfect. You know what's funny is that Howard Schnellenberger, when he was here with his team, oh, you guys have played.